All right, order of brief. Commissioners, President Judge, DA, Children and Youth, MHID, Sheriff, Coroner, me, Hutch, Forrest.
Matt, just so you know, the judge is being called up.
Okay.
There might be a minute.
We can always put her last. You know, Matt.
Yeah, we'll adjust.
Yeah, just.
I heard a lot of people that situation of embracing now or not.
Yeah, it takes time.
Not ready. No, we're not ready.
What's going on? Why do you text me when I'm in bed?
You know, there's
It's apparent.
2 o'clock.
We're just doing okay.
So everybody remembers, when you're done speaking, we're going to go back behind and stand like we did last time.
And try to keep our 6 feet apart.
Yep.
So you want to line up the way you just announced this, because I just forgot where I was.
Matt, she's walking.
Sheriff,
I'll
we're gonna
remind
put
you.
numbers here so you know where you're.
Am I behind Commissioner Maravito?
Literally, or figuratively.
They seem to say you were the,
We're assigning
they
numbers,
said you
put
were
on
the
the floor.
with the rear end. On the side. Together. And then who has our back? But then who has our back?
Well, we're walking like this.
You gonna walk backwards?
Back to back, back to back. Yeah.
Judge, you're after, just from there, you have.
Yeah.
Correct.
Hey, Judge.
Keith in there.
Sorry, sentencing's ran long.
Not to be after, right.
Yep.
For sure. You got that one, of course. So now, I did.
Wait for Tony. Okay. You good? You good? Sir. Good morning. Over the past 51 days, Lycoming County Commissioners have been in constant contact with federal, state, local officials, county commissioners throughout the state, and public health authorities regarding COVID-19. We have all recognized the seriousness of this public health crisis. This virus has halted society in its tracks. Its tentacles from its destruction have led to loss of life, economic devastation, increase in addiction, suicide, domestic violence, abuse, hunger, and poverty. The citizens of our county have been very responsible and have taken the measures to reduce their risk. Today, as we enter the yellow phase, directed by the governor for 24 counties, including Lycoming County, in response, the Lycoming County Commissioners have created a plain cell coordination cell that was recently announced. Director Matt McDermott will expand upon that cell this morning. Lycoming County has continued to deliver many of its services over the past 7 weeks to the public. In some cases, through very creative measures to get the job done. From May 11th through May 31st, county-owned buildings will be opened on a limited basis for county operations. They will be on a limited basis for appointments and hearings as scheduled. Those measures will be elaborated on by officials this morning. We request that if you enter a county-owned building, that you wear a mask upon entering. We're asking the public to remember that as we enter the yellow phase, we will enter on a gradual, safe, and cautious approach. Our goal is that everyone enters the green phase in the immediate future. That will depend upon us staying unified and responsible in a safe manner. Today's actions will expedite or delay that process. In the last few days, Pennsylvania House Speaker Mike Turzai shared a letter conveying information from the Secretary of Health. Sadly, 3,106 Pennsylvania citizens have died in nursing homes, personal care homes, or assisted living residences. The average age is 79 years old. 95% of those who have passed had other health issues. There are currently 37,000 beds in Pennsylvania hospitals. As of this morning, 7% of those beds have COVID-19 patients, and 1.5% are on ventilators. So it's time that we have a safer at-home approach and send our resources to the nursing homes, the healthcare workers, and individuals who have pre-existing health issues. The citizens in our county have performed the safety measures. Now, as we enter the yellow phase, it's time for government to provide the guidelines and get out of the way. Our citizens will reopen as permitted within the yellow phase and do so safely and responsibly. We will prevail, and Lycoming County Strong will be our theme. At this time, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Tony Massar.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to live in Lycoming County. And I'd like to give some thanks and hugs to Steve Johnson and the team at UPMC for allowing us to use their most valuable resources, their staff. Hugs go out to Dawn and Heather. What a tremendous help you have been in assisting us in developing a plan to reopen our county government. In addition to Jason Fink and his team at the Williamsport Lycoming Chamber of Commerce, together with UPMC, they created a pamphlet called Getting Back to Business Safely. It's a must read. This is a helpful information explaining how to open your business safely to protect your employees and your customers. The OSHA regulations have been relaxed, but you should still be aware of what the employer's obligations are in assessing the exposure of risk. To many of you who will be opening today, be smart and safe. By now, we all should know what steps to take to protect ourselves. Every individual is responsible for his or her own safety. If you see someone not complying, do not turn him or her in. Ask him or her to comply or not to come into your store. If you are a customer and you do not see the business complying and you don't feel you're safe, walk out. It's that easy. You are the only one who is accountable for the actions or lack of actions. To the decision makers in Harrisburg, you need to know the fabric of a business owner. They are risk takers. They sign over their life savings and whatever equity they have in their homes to start their businesses. They kiss their children early in the morning and late in the evening, sometimes while they're sleeping. They sacrifice their time with them to provide a good quality of life for their family and their employees. They treat their employees with respect and dignity and concern for them as much as their own family. They work 7 days a week, and on their days off, they are preparing for the next week's business. They are most of all resilient and unwilling to fall or fail. To all business owners who are experiencing hardships and uncertainty, this is through no fault of your own. Hold your head high, hang in there. Prosperity is just around the corner. And one last request. Get all businesses open before it's too late, and you make those business owners choose between feeding their families or defying your orders.
Good morning. I'm Rick Mirabito, one of the commissioners. 2 points I'd like to emphasize today. The first has to do with the question that the public has asked, which is, what does the yellow phase mean? Well, to me, the yellow phase is like a yellow traffic light. It's a warning light. It's telling me to proceed with caution and to slow down. Now, I'll be honest, like many of us in this room, there may have been a time in my car when I tried to rush through the yellow light before it changed to red. And when I did that, I really wasn't acting cautiously. And I want to say that with this yellow light, I won't be acting that way. And we urge the public to be cautious too. The governor has lifted the stay-at-home order for 24 counties, including this county. However, let's use common sense and follow the science, just as we would with a flood or any other natural disaster. When our first responders tell us not to go boating in the middle of an electrical storm, we listen. So I think if we follow the guidelines, it'll keep all of us safe, including the most vulnerable, meaning those who have the comorbidities that Commissioner Metzger mentioned at the beginning of the press conference. Those are the ones who are most vulnerable. Let's follow the guidelines and minimize where we go, even though we have the ability to go. If we see a crowded parking lot at a store, let's try to go another time. Let's follow the guidelines and wear our masks. Let's follow the guidelines and practice social distancing. The second point I want to make today deals with the emotional and the psychological health of the community. The sad truth is that although we may not have a large number of COVID-19 deaths, we are concerned that suicides, drug overdoses, and domestic and child abuse may increase. We will hear later from Keith Wagner from the Joinder and Matt Salvatore from Children and Youth. But to the public, the commissioners want you to know that you are not alone. The commissioners want you to know that two of the most pressing factors that cause self-harm and mental health crises are economic insecurity and feelings of social isolation. And those are the two factors that are most active right now with this pandemic. The commissioners want you to know that the county human service programs are open for business. And the commissioners want you to know that even if you are someone who's never needed those services before, but you feel isolated, please make a call. If you're worried that you may be a victim of abuse or neglect, or that you may snap and inflict abuse, please make a call. The commissioners want you to know that the county has concerned and trained people at the county who will help you and who can help you. Thank you, and let's stay safe. And I'd like to introduce President Judge Nancy Putz.
Thank you. Just wanted to reiterate that the courts are working closely with the county to ensure that the courts are open and accessible in a safe and fair method and in total compliance with CDC and Pennsylvania Department of Health requirements. We are currently putting together a frequently asked questions link on our website so that if anyone who has business before the courts has any specific questions, we believe that it most likely will cover all of the issues that you may have. But I just wanted to highlight a number of things for you. That although people may have been under the impression that the courthouse has been closed, it has not. We have just been restricting the public from coming into the building, but we have been holding essential hearings, and within the last 2 weeks, we've expanded the group of essential hearings that we have been holding so that we can address all of the needs of the community as best we can. When you do come into the courthouse, we would ask that you all wear a mask. And when you come into the building, you are going to be asked some questions by the people that greet you at the door, which most likely will be the sheriffs, because we want to make sure that if you are not feeling well, please do not come in the courthouse. If you do not have a mask, one will be provided for you, but you must wear that mask throughout your time in the building, and we would ask that you not dispose of that mask until you have left the courthouse in a proper disposal trash can or receptacle, and don't throw it into the bushes or anything, the landscaping around the courthouse. If you are scheduled to be in the building and you cannot participate electronically, either by Zoom or by telephone, we would ask that you enter the building and only go to the location that you're scheduled to go to, and you only come by yourself, that you don't bring family or friends with you for support, because we're trying to minimize the number of people that come into the courthouse, because currently the number is 25. And for those that are familiar with the courthouse and the second floor where the majority of the courtrooms are, each courtroom is going to be trying to provide services to citizens of Lycoming County, so we've got to manage the number of people that are coming into the building. Please remember that when you do come into the building and you come onto the second floor or attend any of the offices that are related to the courts or the courthouse, that you also practice social distancing. Try and keep at least 6 feet away from individuals that you are associated with. As you see here, we have hand sanitizer. We have hand sanitizing stations located throughout the building, and either directly inside the courtrooms or immediately outside the courtrooms. And remember during this time that all the regular rules of attending in person still remain in place, such as remove your hats in the courtroom, don't bring food or drinks inside the courtroom. And if you have any questions about where I should go, what I should do, can I participate by Zoom, call the office that you believe that you are supposed to report to. If you think that your case is on the schedule and you're not sure, you can go to the courtscheduling.lyco.org site and look at the court schedule, which is up to date, that you can check for that, and that you can also get additional information at the UJS portal site, so it's ujsportal.pacourts.us. Please be patient with us. We too are dealing with all of these changes just as you are, and I understand how stressful it is, but we are all in our offices. We are available by phone, so that if you have any questions, please reach out. A couple of things just to stress: that juvenile probation will be resuming in-person hearings effective May 20th. Once again, if you have a question about something, reach out to JPO. If you have connections with the Adult Probation Office and you aren't already on supervision with them, they will be, for example, if you've come into the courts through a guilty plea or a sentence, they will be meeting with you out in the public. But the judge will be advising you of your conditions of supervision, so that if you fail to be available for Adult Probation Office, that will be considered a violation of your conditions of supervision. If you have business with the Domestic Relations Office, please do not bring children or any other family members unless you're coming to the courthouse and that person is directly related to the need to come into the building. For example, you're coming for a paternity test, that's when the child needs to be with you. Our law library, which is located in the basement of the courthouse, will not be open until June 1st, so if you have any questions, we ask that you consult with a lawyer. to answer those questions. The Register and Recorder's Office and the Prothonotary's Office will still be closed for public foot traffic, but they are still receiving filings and inquiries by phone and by mail. So if you have any questions for them, please reach out to them. With the magisterial district judges, they are also continuing to perform essential tasks. If you need to make a payment, we would ask that you make those payments online or send them in by mail, because the offices are not receiving foot traffic for those payments. Once again, we appreciate all your cooperation, because we realize that especially in the criminal justice system, we are used to a lot of people coming into the courthouse. Right now, that's not healthy, so we would ask your patience and understanding through this time. I now turn it over to the District Attorney, Ryan Gardner.
Good morning, everyone. Despite the countless changes and new waters we've all tread since this occurred, the District Attorney's Office, in addition to all municipal and state police officers and troopers, have remained busy, have remained operational. And at the onset of COVID-19, countywide we did experience a downturn in criminal activity. Unfortunately, this pattern did not remain constant. Approximately 3 weeks ago, we realized an uptick in violent crime. This is underscored most recently by the shooting on 7th Street. We unfortunately experienced a homicide and an increase in narcotic activity. However, due to the diligent efforts of the Williamsport Bureau of Police agents, an arrest warrant was recently issued for the 7th Street shooter. Due to the swift action of PSP Crime Unit, there was the potential of a homicide avoided and solicitation of murder charges filed as a result thereof. Countless arrests and warrants have been served by the Lycoming County Narcotics Enforcement Unit, in addition to utilizing Fugitive Task Force, City CERT teams. We've apprehended and arrested a number of drug dealers. This is highlighted by a significant drug bust that occurred 2 days ago that resulted in the seizure of the equivalent of a smorgasbord of illegal narcotics, cash, and vehicles. Warm weather is a welcome reprieve from the cold and damp days of spring. Coupled with the governor's decision to relax the stay-at-home order, people will undoubtedly be drawn outdoors. Warm weather, however, historically translates to an increase in narcotic activity and other related crimes. Drug dealers may ramp up their activity in coming months. I want to stress, our narcotics unit is equally looking forward to the opportunity to absorb the sun's warming rays. They will be outside, they will be watching, they will be making arrests of those engaged in the sale of illegal narcotics. Crime isn't going to rest, neither is law enforcement. I'll turn this over to Children and Youth. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Matt Sauer. I'm the Assistant Administrator for Lycoming County Children and Youth. We've been working in partnership with mental health and intellectual disability to ensure that we have consistent staffing across the joinder. Our agency is maintaining a reduced staff within our agency, but we're responding to all reports as we did prior to the pandemic. We are currently meeting all regulatory requirements and addressing all of our reports. The concern that we see is the reduction in the number of referrals that are currently coming into the agency. Prior to April, 80% of our child abuse reports came from mandated reporters. With schools, daycares, child serving businesses being shut down, the reports from mandated reporters are down to 60%. Referrals since March 1st are down 34%, and our child abuse reports are down 52%. I'd want the public to know and encourage, you don't have to be a mandated reporter to make a report. If you see a concern, please make that phone call. Our agency is there to support families. Our last thing we ever want to do is to remove a child, and we have lots of preventative services that are available to the community without being involved in our agency to help address the needs during this period. I understand, our agency understands the stress the families are going through financially, schools being out, routines, structure, a lot of challenges during this period of time. And we want to be there to support them. We'd rather be preventative and proactive. And ultimately, we want to create healthy, strong families within the community. Some of those services, or all those services, can be contacted through Lycoming County Children and Youth. And I'll give you some examples of that. We have outreach services that are still functioning. They work with about 150 families in the community. You don't have to be involved with the agency. They work on budgeting, parenting, routines. They can come to your home, address whatever need that is, make the necessary referrals, maybe to mental health and DNA, to help those families get through this time. We also have, with mental health, services within our school districts, and with schools not being on site, these caseworkers are in each school district, able to be contacted through us to work with youth that are struggling, connecting them to resources, working with families. So there are services out there, and we would really encourage the community, if someone is struggling, to reach out to us. Our phone number is 570-326-7895, and the actual hotline, I'll give that out, that's 1-800-932-0313. We have exceptional staff that have been working, that have a lot of experience and expertise, and are willing to go out to the homes and work with families to help them be successful. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Keith Wagner, Executive Director.
Thank you. Good morning. As Matt said, I'm Keith Wagner. I am the Executive Director of the Lycoming Clinton Joinder programs. Under our umbrella are the Bi-County Mental Health, Intellectual Disabilities, Early Intervention Services. We also provide oversight of the Medical Assistance, Behavioral Health Choices, Managed Care. Throughout the pandemic, the Joinders programs have maintained regular operations with some modifications for social distancing and health and safety measures. We are following the CDC's recommendations, and our staff are using protective equipment. We ask everyone who comes into any of our offices to wear a mask, and we are providing masks to any of the individuals and families that we work with who don't have one. All of our services are currently available by telephone and by video conference, but we are also maintaining in-person contacts as well. Our staff are providing crisis intervention and assessments as they ordinarily would. We are providing assistance and support with hospitalizations, obtaining transportation to medical appointments, housing and shelter assistance, and arranging for food and medication. We also have a staff member providing mental health assistance in the county prison. Overall, the mental health system in the county continues to serve the community. All of the local mental health service providers continue to provide therapy and treatment via telehealth and video conferencing. There are two areas of concern for us right now. The first is helping the community deal with the psychological and emotional impact of the pandemic, coping with the stress and loss. And the second is the alarming increase in suicides in the county as compared to a year ago. During this time of social isolation and physical distancing, with schools and businesses closed, and increased fears of serious illness for the person or their loved one, people are experiencing uncertainty, loss, and changes in their routines. It is common to feel sad or anxious or frustrated or angry or frightened. All of these are normal responses to stress and uncertainty. Although many of us are able to cope during this time, others can start feeling overwhelmed and could use some additional support. Please reach out to us. Through the first 4 months of 2020, there have been 9 suicides in Lycoming County. This marks a 125% increase over the same period in 2019. Suicide is always preventable, but it helps to know what the warning signs are and where to find assistance. Suicide affects all ages, all races, all ethnicities, and all social and economic groups. Warning signs include talking about suicide or talking about wanting to die, expressing that things will never get any better, appearing to be in terrible emotional pain, appearing withdrawn from everyone or everything, seeming anxious or on edge, or having frequent flashes of anger. There are a number of risk factors which have been exacerbated by the pandemic. They include, aside from a history of depression and previous suicide attempts, loss of job, loss of money, loss of home, divorce or relationship problems, health issues, being expelled from school, being bullied or assaulted. If you are concerned about someone, or if you're thinking about ending your life, even if it's just a fleeting thought, you can always ask for help. You are not alone. There is someone available to talk with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. No problem is insurmountable. In Lycoming, Clinton County, our office has begun an advertising campaign called You Are Not Alone. There are flyers in the back. Please help yourself. This is going to be on billboards in both Lycoming and Clinton County, and it's also currently on social media. In addition, we have begun to, or we are making available a list of contacts and resources, both locally and nationally, for a variety of issues, including suicide. Those are also available in the back. The primary numbers to call locally are 570-326-7895. That is our local number. We also have an 800 number, 1-800-525-7938. And the state of Pennsylvania has established a warm line. That's 1-855-284-2494. Thank you.
Good morning. My first comment would be for visitors to the courthouse. There's a lot of guidelines that you heard from President Judge Putz. It's not as complex as it may sound. It's a lot of information, but the simple response I would give you is those that are coming to the courthouse, the security deputy group have all the protocols and all the information. We'll be making direct contact to the court system, to the court administrator's office, and to judges if necessary to figure out where you need to be, when you need to be, and if you need to be. We do ask that, I'll reinforce it, that as would be typical pre-COVID-19, don't bring an entourage with you. There's limited access to the building. You heard the numbers from the President Judge. So we want to limit that to those who need to be here. And again, deputies will be prepared to assist you. The mask is required, so please bring a mask. If you don't have access to a mask, one will be provided for you. I'll reinforce that food and items in the corridors should not be. Please keep any items that you bring into the courthouse with you when you leave. A very hot button topic from the Sheriff's Office is the LTC side, formerly called gun permits. The license to carry side has been suspended. Those that expired on the actual date that the governor issued his initial executive order as Pennsylvania became involved in a state of emergency, those that had a license that expired from that date forward, that license is not expired. It is a good license until at least, I believe, May 31. It's 45 days. If you go to the governor's site, you can actually get that specific information, or you can go to the sheriff's site at lyco.org. So if you are an expired license to carry, because your license would have normally expired, you're not expired, and that will be honored at least as it stands now through May 31. Staff have been working, my senior staff have been working very hard to provide LTC access again, and I think we're going to be able to roll it out next week. We'll be working with Deputy Director Kennedy and IS on format and access and how we get the information exchanged. Our goal is going to be to limit your need to be in the building, but we typically take about a 20-minute visit. I think we're good enough that we've got it down to about a 5-minute visit. Unfortunately, we can't do it all by mail because there are certain requirements by statute that require the license to carry, for instance, the photo, that we have to have the photo with the license to carry. We're going to try to roll that out next week, and that will be for individuals who want to apply for a license to carry that didn't expire during the governor's executive order. I'm using the presumption that you have a good license if you expired per the governor's order, also per Pennsylvania statute. So we're going to try first to allow those who would like a license to carry and are eligible for a license to carry to be able to come and get one, because the rest of you who might have expired, your license might have expired, are going to still be good. 3rd Street Plaza, we've assisted from the Sheriff's Office with the prothonotary and with the Register and Recorder and our IS department and our maintenance department to provide an off-site, if you will, location to provide a certain number of services out of the prothonotary's office and out of the Register and Recorder's office. If you have any questions about those services, you would contact the prothonotary's office or the Register and Recorder's office to see what you can do to access that off-site location. It's computer operations over there, and it involves certain searches that are done by computer. We are discussing currently expanding that. I've just gotten the request actually this morning, expanding the hours there, and that will be the goal, which is the goal of all county government. We want to try to expand everything as quickly as we can, but we have to expand it as quickly as we can with everybody's safety in mind. You know, there's no baseline for what we're doing, and the leadership team that you see here, we've had more meetings and more discussions, and sometimes, you know, sometimes we don't agree because there's no baseline to say how did it happen before. You know, there's an old saying that history is sometimes the best measure of the future. Well, we don't have history, so we have to try to collectively come together, and we do that very well at this county, and it's done every day. You don't see it, but the leadership teams that are put together work on this every single day, at nights, holidays, weekends, to provide what we can provide. We need to open government as quickly as we can, but we got to make sure it's done safely. It's interesting when you say you got to expand government, and the hitch is you can't do it too quickly because of the health risk that COVID-19 creates. On the civil service side, out of the Sheriff's Office, we have begun to provide civil service. So those processes that are coming in typically to the prothonotary, be certified, and then they come upstairs to my office. We are now starting to move out and provide civil service as much as we can. My final comment would be to be patient. We're all in the same situation. You know, there's about 3,010 counties in the country. Everybody virtually faces almost the same dilemma on how government begins again. And I will say this, when you come into the facilities, be kind to our employees. They have as much stress as anyone else does. They have to receive folks who they have to be concerned about as far as a risk. Plus they have to take care of their own families. Plus we have had employees who've had to be quarantined, not that they've been COVID-19, but they've had to be quarantined based on best practices from the CDC and the Department of Health. So the stress for the employee group, who have been incredible, is important to us. And as I said, and as the leaders before me said to you, if you have any questions, call an office. If you call the Sheriff's Office and I don't have an answer, we'll send you to where it needs to go. If you call any of these offices, you can get someone to respond to you, because we're here to respond. So with that, I will turn it over to Director of Administration, McDermott.
As Commissioner Metzger mentioned, Lycoming County government has established a county planning and Coordination Cell to address the reopening of county government operations beyond the services that we already provide or that we already continue to provide. While we transition to the yellow phase today, May 8th, as authorized by the governor's reopening plan. The cell is initially comprised of representatives from the county EOC or Emergency Operations Center, Planning Department, County Procurement Office, Information Services, Voter Services, Court Administration, Human Resources, Maintenance, the Coroner's Office, and the prison. The Planning and Coordination Cell will analyze all the CDC and state guidelines as they apply to the reopening of county government operations and the internal and external requirements to do so. The cell will identify, synchronize, and coordinate all current and future operational requirements with a deliberate review of all resource requirements to ensure the safest and most effective means of services delivery to the public. Particular attention will be placed in the areas of current and future policy development and integration, public affairs requirements, and lessons learned that ultimately identify long-term changes to Lycoming County government operations. I'd like to take a couple moments to update you on Lycoming County's resource management services, specifically recycling operations. They will initiate a slow reopen for recycling due to capacity and the limited drivers to service all sites at once. All inbound materials will be held for 3 days before processing. We are utilizing our tents to separate the inbound materials for processing, and we ask that if anyone in your household has COVID-19, to throw it away in your regular trash, not recycling. Starting on May 11th, we will resume accepting single-stream materials from haulers with limited hours from 7 a.m. to noon. On Wednesday, May 13th, we will establish and reopen 5 recycling drop-off sites. The drivers will be servicing these areas as best they can, so please know that these sites will fill up quickly, and it may take some time for the drivers to be able to return and empty the containers. Please continue to practice social distancing and wear your mask while visiting all sites. There will be a press release Monday to identify the sites and times. The pop-up remote drop-off sites that we've experienced or put out in the last 3 weeks, this being the third, have really displayed the benefits of combining the recyclables, more volumes, and improved transportation. To better accommodate the inbound recyclables and help with its transportations, more materials will be combined. 1, fiber/papers, which are magazines, newspapers, chipboard, office paper, junk mail, and cardboard that has been broken down, are all acceptable into one container. Plastic bottles, 1 and 2, metal cans, which are plastic bottles, jars, number 1 and 2 only. Tin, steel cans, aluminum cans are all acceptable into one container. Glass bottles and jars are still acceptable and still separated by color, clear, brown, and green. Please remember that plastic bags are not acceptable in the recycling containers. Please empty any bag material and take the bags back home with you. The only exception would be for shredded office paper. So please put your shredded office paper in a clear bag if you have one. A note about out-of-county recycling. We also service about 20 sites outside of the county. So we will begin to open those up slowly too. Give it some time. There's a lot of logistics involved with this, and we will get things back into order relatively quickly. Thank you. I'll be followed by our Director of Public Safety, Jeff Hutchins.
Morning, I'm Jeff Hutchins, the Director of Public Safety. I'll be brief. As we heard the Commissioners, President, Judge, and Director state, excuse me, we're working to get the county government open for necessary services as soon as possible and take care of those backlog services. As the President and Judge stated, we are asking that you do wear a mask when entering any county building, not just the courthouse. And those visits will be by appointment only. Just as we heard, you can contact the courthouse. If you have business in 3rd Street Plaza, Department of Public Safety, please reach out to those offices and schedule or to see if the business can be handled by phone. As the Director mentioned, we have formed the operations cell. We are actively coordinating across departments for any requests or needs as we navigate this COVID-19 crisis. This cell is coordinating, if one department might need some equipment or personal protective equipment, we're looking at where that can apply across departments and make best use of our services. Our maintenance staff is at full staff. They have increased their cleaning and sanitizing duties. They continue to do a wonderful job and make sure all of our buildings are as clean as possible. We remain in contact with both PEMA and the Department of Health, and we're continuing to work with our first responder community to make sure they're responding and handling emergencies as safest as possible. I do want to comment that we have, when the crisis started here, almost across the board, we have seen a decrease in EMS calls and emergency room visits. And what we're finding are a lot of people are maybe scared or hesitant to reach out or go to the hospital because they believe there's a heightened increase of illness there. And we're finding that people are maybe staying home longer, not calling 911 as soon, and then when they do call, they're experiencing more serious conditions. We're seeing more heart attacks at home, more strokes. So we do want to let everyone know that our hospitals are safe. It is safe to call for help at the earliest sign of a medical emergency. Please, just pick up the phone, dial 911, and we will get you those services. Don't wait. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director of Voter Services, Forrest Lehman.
Good morning. Pennsylvania will hold its presidential primary on Tuesday, June 2nd, and on that day, democracy will work for everyone in Lycoming County. All 81 voting precincts in the county will be open on Election Day. However, voters should be prepared for some changes at their polling places if they vote in person. The polling places will be accommodating fewer voters at a time in order to promote social distancing. So you may encounter longer lines than usual, especially during peak periods. Lines may even extend outside the polling place at times in order to keep people separated. Also, voters are requested to wear masks and bring their own pens, which will help protect voters and our poll workers. As an alternative to voting in person on June 2nd, the County Board of Elections strongly encourages voters to apply to vote by mail. We want as many people as possible to vote from home because that is the best way for voters and poll workers to be as safe as possible. Over 6,000 Lycoming County voters have already applied to vote by mail, with more doing it every day, and there is still time to apply. You can apply online at Pennsylvania Department of State or download a paper application from the Lycoming County Voter Services website, or you can call Voter Services at 570-327-2267 to request that we mail you a paper application. In order to vote by mail, Voter Services must receive your application for a mail-in ballot by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, May 26th. And we must receive your voted absentee or mail-in ballot by 8 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, June 2nd, Election Day, in order for that ballot to be counted. Everyone who is considering voting by mail or who has already voted by mail should know that counties across the Commonwealth are administering mail-in voting as securely and carefully as we have always administered absentee voting in past elections. A ballot mailed to us is just as important as a ballot cast at a precinct. Your vote by mail will be counted. And finally, the Board of Elections wants to thank all of our polling place facilities and our poll workers for their patience and support during this challenging time. If you know any poll workers, please compliment them for the work they do. They're our friends, our family, our neighbors. They are making a commendable contribution to their communities on June 2nd. They are some of the county's finest public servants, and so please express your appreciation to them if you have an opportunity to do so. Thank you. This does conclude the formal portion of the press conference. However, the public officials here at the front of the room are present. They're available for any questions you may have.
Is there any questions at this time? Yes.
Commissioner Metzger, Todd Bartley, News Talk 104.1. What was your reaction last night when the governor issued the guidance for today and then buttressed it with the stay-at-home order through June 4th? Did you have a shock to that, thinking it may apply to the 24 counties?
I believe that the stay-home order applies to the red counties. Yes. And in response to it is we're working with our local officials, Fred Keller, our Congressman Keller, Garth Everett, Jeff Whelan, and Senator Yaw, Gene Yaw. We're in constant daily contact with them to reach out to the governor's office, relaying messages from our businesses and from our constituents of our local concerns. We'll continue to do so.
What's been the line of communication between the governor's office and Lycoming County?
It's through our local legislators. The governor's office has we do have a contact with the governor's office. I've spoken to him directly twice. I believe Commissioner Mirabito has spoken to him several times. I'll let him elaborate on that.
The governor has a representative for the Northeast who has worked with us. In fact, one of the things that I had suggested to him was that the governor or the director of Department of Health, Dr. Levine, have a call with the commissioners, and we're looking forward. This is not something that's going to end overnight, and I think it's going to be an ongoing. In fairness to those elected officials and to Dr. Levine, I think we have to realize that they are dealing with not just one county, but with 67 counties and also with all the problems. But the governor's office has absolutely been in touch with us, and as has Senator Toomey, Senator Casey, Representative Keller, Senator Yaw, Representative Everett, and Whelan too. And I think, frankly, it is that communication that's allowed us to convey to them what's going on the ground, and has allowed them to help us with resources. I don't know whether President Judge wants to comment on interaction with the Supreme Court or not. I know that they've been in touch with her as President Judge. So, I mean, I think all of the elected officials and appointed are working. Yeah.
We also have the Lycoming County Coroner here, if anyone would like to ask questions of him also. Yes, Mr. Stout?
Yes, I asked earlier, any general directions for churches that wish to open this weekend?
That was a good question on Tuesday, and as I said, we had a board meeting with our local church on Sunday or on Tuesday night. If the churches are able to live stream, we continue to encourage that. There was discussion on staggered services, multiple services throughout the morning, maybe one at 9, 10, 11, depending on the size of the churches. There was discussion on groups, home groups that have weekly Bible studies. If they do so, that those individuals from those churches could attend those homes and have small groups, so maybe 10 or so at those homes while the pastor live streams to those homes. Also, the use of the floors, maybe 20 per floor, if you would have a basement and a sanctuary, whether it could be a live stream down in the basement as people come into the building. We emphasize it's very important as stewards of good gestures and doing CDC practices to make sure that the masks were worn into the church and that they were kept on with the exception of singing hymns. And then they would be able to be removed in that you could do social distancing within the church if the churches were able to have services within the guidelines of the CDC.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Coroner Kiesling.
Yes. Yes.
Good morning, Coroner Kiesling.
Good morning.
As been well documented, you and the Secretary of Health have been kind of butting heads over the death counts and everything else. Currently, before the numbers today, we have 4 deaths in Lycoming County.
That's correct.
As the head of the Coroners Association, the lines of communication seem to be a little bit strained. Earlier this week, the Monroe County Coroner asked for the resignation of Secretary Levine. She addressed that yesterday to my question, saying that she serves at the pleasure of the governor. What's your reaction 51 days in here in Lycoming County to how this has transpired?
We still have not had another follow-up meeting after our meeting last week. That meeting has not been able to, scheduled. So the state coroners are still up in the air. The numbers are still fluctuate back and forth. There's a lot of variables. The good thing is the local hospitals here in Lycoming County and the nursing homes have been very cooperative reporting these cases to us, and because it's a public safety issue. As we all know, we don't want someone to be COVID-19 positive that dies, and we don't have any ability to then trace the tracking of those people that may have had contact and then further spread that in our communities. So we're working closely locally in Lycoming County. The other counties, I'm still trying to get, we want all these cases reported through the coroners. I think that would alleviate a lot of the confusion in numbers, and it gives us a better boots on the ground, the ability to then trace those contacts possibly to those individuals that passed, so we're hopefully reducing the spread. So we're still not there yet, but we're still working.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is Jenny West there?
Any further questions? Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this morning. And again, we emphasize that everybody stay unified and be Lycoming County strong. Thank you. Have a great day.